May 17th, 1926. Europe is exhausted. Britain has just emerged from a nationwide strike. Poland is in a political chaos. Germany's democracy looks increasingly fragile. And across the world, newspapers are filled with a strange mixture of optimism and growing instability. Most people living through these headlines still believe the modern world was advancing toward peace and progress. But history will remember this decade very differently. These were the 7 biggest geopolitical headlines the world was reading exactly 100 years ago this week. Number 1. Poland falls into crisis after Piłsudski's coup. On May 12, 1926, troops loyal to Marshal Józef Piłsudski marched into Warsaw. For 3 days, fighting erupted across the Polish capital. Bridges, government buildings, and Mayor Street became battlegrounds as forces loyal to the government attempted to stop the coup. By May 15, President Stanislaw Wojciechowski resigned. Piłsudski had effectively seized control of Poland. Across Europe, newspapers described the coup as one of the largest signs yet that post-World War I democracies remained deeply unstable. At the time, many feared Eastern Europe could become increasingly vulnerable to authoritarian rule, and history will soon prove those fears justified. Number 2. Britain struggled to recover after general strike. Just a day earlier, on May 12, Britain's general strike officially ended. For 9 days, nearly 2 million workers had disrupted railways, factories, newspapers, transportation, and ports across the country. The strike began on May 3rd after coal miners protested wage reductions and worsening working conditions. To many observers, Britain appeared dangerously close to social paralysis. Government officials blamed radical element and communist influence, while unions accused the government of abandoning working families after the First World War. International newspapers closely followed the crisis, worried the labor unrest could spread across Europe. Even today, historians continue debating whether the strike represented a democratic labor movement or a warning sign of deeper instability inside the industrial world. Number 3. Germany's fragile democracy enters another political crisis. In Germany, political instability continued growing. On May 12, Chancellor Luther lost a vote of confidence in parliament, forcing another government crisis inside the already fragile Weimar Republic. Only a few years earlier, Germany has suffered hyperinflation, political violence, and attempts unrest from both the far left and far right. By May of 1926, many Europeans viewed Germany as politically exhausted and dangerously divided. At the time, few people imagined how dramatically German politics would transform during the following decade. But the warning signs were already visible. Number 4. Fear Soviet influence spread through Europe. Throughout the week of May 17th, fierce communism remained a constant theme in Western newspapers. The recent British strike intensified concern that revolutionary ideas from the Soviet Union were influencing labor movement abroad. Editorials in London, Paris, and New York repeatedly warned about Bolshevik influence spreading across Europe. Meanwhile, inside the Soviet Union, Joseph Stalin continued consolidating power following the death of Vladimir Lenin 2 years earlier. At the time, most of the world still underestimated how influential the Soviet Union would become later in the 20th century. Number 5. The airship Norge captured the imagination of the world. Amid political instability and labor unrest, one story brought excitement and optimism. On May 12, explorer Roald Amundsen and the crew of the airship Norge completed a historic flight across the North Pole. Newspapers around the world celebrate the expedition as a triumph of exploration and technology. In 1926, airships symbolized the future. The world still believed technology and innovation would lead humanity into a new modern era. Looking back today, those headlines feel both inspiring and strangely fragile. Number 6. China moves closer to a larger internal conflict. In China, tensions continue rising as nationalist forces under Chiang Kai-shek prepared the northern expedition. The campaign aimed to reunify China after years of fragmentation between regional warlords and competing political factions. Foreign governments closely monitored the situation, especially in major commercial centers like Shanghai. Many newspapers describe China as one of the most unstable regions in the world. At the time, few could fully predict how deeply Chinese political conflict will reshape global geopolitics during the century ahead. Number 7. America celebrates prosperity during the Roaring Twenties. While Europe struggles with strikes, coups, and political instability, the United States projected confidence. American newspapers in May of 1926 focused heavily on industrial growth, rising stock markets, radio, automobiles, aviation, and economic optimism. The Roaring Twenties appear unstoppable. Cities like New York symbolize modernity and progress. To many Americans, the future looks bright. But from today's perspective, those headlines carry an eerie sense of calm before the storm. Only 3 years later, the Wall Street crash of 1929 will transform the global economy forever. And that was the world, exactly 100 years ago this week. A world suspended between optimism and instability, between technological progress and political uncertainty. Most people reading these headlines in May of 1926 still believe the modern world was becoming safer, wealthier, and more stable. History, of course, will tell a different story.